Fine, fine.
Yeah, thank you very much for making the time. I know it's a Saturday, and I really, really appreciate your time for this interview. And like I mentioned, I'm doing my MSc Cybersecurity
Mhm.
from University of West London, and as a part of our dissertation and the quality analysis method, um, we have to do interview industry thought leaders like you. I'm really, really happy that you are here to kind of guide me through certain questions which I had. And my topic is cybersecurity threats, impacts, and governance in banking sector. And I have a set of 12 questions, and I'll be asking these questions one by one and getting your opinion in terms of both your professional as well as your industry experience, as well as you being a thought leader and subject matter expert in the field of cybersecurity for so many years. And I'm really happy to have you as my mentor as well. Thank you very much. And let's dive in if you're fine.
Yeah, thanks, Rakesh, for inviting me. And first of all, congratulations for your MSc. And this is really very, great things to do if you are coming into cyber security field. And also the topic you have selected is really very impressive and also going to give you many of insights of the cyber security. So yeah, I mean, you feel free to proceed.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's quite an encouragement. So yeah, so the first question I'm just bringing on my screen is, in your view, what are the most significant cybersecurity threats which are impacting the both the fintechs and the digital banking industry?
Okay, yeah, I mean, it's very nice and very generic question nowadays, I think, asking by all the banking sector industries. So, according to me, the digital banking industry is facing several significant cybersecurity threats, such as phishing attacks, malware attacks, ransomware attacks, insider threats, and third-party risks. So, if I come to phishing attacks, which involves fraudsters sending fake emails or messages to customers, while malware attacks involve malicious software programs that can infiltrate banking systems and compromise sensitive data. When it comes to ransomware, that attacks involves cyber criminals encrypting a bank's data and demanding a ransom payment in exchange for the decryption key, which is
Okay.
very scary. And last but not least, when we talk about insider threats, that includes intentional or unintentional employee actions that result in the loss or theft of sensitive data and third-party risks, including third-party vendors and partners. So digital banks must take a comprehensive and a proactive approach to cybersecurity, including implementing cybersecurity framework, robust security measures, educating employees and customers about cybersecurity risk, and staying up to date on emerging threats and best practices. Hope that it answers your questions, Rakesh.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I mean, again, these are evolving, and definitely these are the threats which we have commonly read across, and I completely agree with your inputs. My second question is now, as we just discussed, that there are several kinds of cybersecurity threats that digital banks face today, right? So, do you agree that one of the biggest threats is a risk of data breach? And this leads to not only financial losses, but then also has serious consequences in terms of brand damage, undermining of trust for both banks as well as its customers.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, data breaches, if you see, are becoming one of the biggest threats in the digital banking today, and there is no doubt about that. And they occur when an unauthorized party gains access to sensitive information such as passwords, personal identification numbers, credit card details, or any other sensitive data that should only be accessible by authorized users. And the most common way that data breaches occurs is through cyber attacks, such as hacking, phishing, or malware attacks. One of the most significant consequences of a data breach is the financial loss that can occur. Hackers can gain access to customers' bank accounts, credit card information, and other financial information, allowing them to steal funds and commit financial fraud. One another significant consequences of data breaches is identity theft. Data breaches are one of the biggest threats in the digital banking today, leading to financial losses, identity theft, and other serious consequences for both the banks and its customers. And I would advise to prevent data breaches, digital bank must take appropriate security measures such as implementing a DLP solution
Okay.
or a MFA encryption and regular security updates as well. And additionally, they must educate their customers on how to protect their personal and financial information, such as not sharing passwords, being cautious when clicking on a links or downloading attachments in emails, and monitoring their bank accounts for suspicious activity. Failure to do so can lead to significant financial losses, reputational damages, and other serious consequences. So, hope this helps you to understand that how serious the data breaches are into the digital banking industry today.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for reinforcing that. So the risk of data breach is the biggest, one of the
Exactly.
biggest threats that digital banking faces today. Obviously, because they are a gold mine of customer information. They're a gold mine of
Yes.
sensitive information of their customers, right? Thank you.
Yeah.
You brought a very interesting point about a DLP, or a data loss prevention solution. So
Yeah.
do you think that implementing a data loss prevention solution is one of the best ways organizations can prevent themselves from data breaches? And while there are several DLP solutions available in the market today, is there any specific DLP solution which you would recommend?
Yeah, I mean, this is DLP is definitely one of the best solution one should, opt when it comes to preventing the leakage of your very important information. And
Okay.
implementing a DLP solution is unquestionably one of the most effective ways for enterprises to protect themselves from data breaches. A DLP system can assist in preventing sensitive data from leaving the business via email, instant messaging, cloud storage, or any external storage devices. Uh, to detect sensitive data and prevent its unauthorized exposure, DLP systems often employ a combination of techniques such as content analysis, contextual analysis, user and entity behavior analytics, and machine learning. And they can also give visibility and control over data flows, as well as monitor and analyze user activities and enforce regulation science guidelines to guarantee regulatory compliance. And also, just to emphasize, it is very crucial, however, that no one solution can provide total security against all probable data breaches. Effective
Yeah.
cyber security, necessitates a multi-layered strategy that includes technological controls, rules and procedures, user education, and continual monitoring and improvement. So holistically, you have to see the solution from a people, process, and a technology perspective. And if I see DLP is one of the solution, that will fulfill your technological requirements of the security out of this overall security model. When it comes to your second question, which is talking about which DLP is a best solution. So if you go into market, there are lots of manufacturers offering a diverse variety of systems with various capability, features, and prices. And whatever the tool fits to your requirements as well as budget and your based on your specific infrastructure, you should go for it. And if you want the recommended tools, better to go to Gartner's Magic, which is going to provide you in-depth understanding
Okay.
of specific DLP solutions like a Symantec, Forcepoint, McAfee, or any other DLP solutions are out there in the market to compare and take the best decision out of this.
Well, thank you, Kumar. That was absolutely, I mean, I never thought about it, right? So there are two parts to what you're saying. So you're saying that, of course, while DLP solution has been proven, effective in preventing data losses, what you're saying is that, so for while selecting a DLP, while there are a number of players in the market, you have to actually
Yeah.
evaluate 360 degrees, that what's the need, what's the appetite, what's the budget your
Yep.
organization has. And I also liked your recommendation to actually refer to Gartner to get
Yep.
a third party view on what are the features and ratings offered on these DLP solutions, and take the best fit. Thank you.
Yeah.
That really helps me to understand this question much better. um, so since we are in this topic of what were the different types of cybersecurity risks and incidences we have been seeing. But you would believe that, I mean, every day I open up newspapers or Google or any magazines, the first thing I see is how cyber risk and incidences have been evolved in recent years. So I'm sure that you, as an industry leader, you would have seen some novel patterns, and I would be very interested to know what patterns have you observed lately. In the couple of last years, how the cyber risks have evolved.
Yeah, I mean, this is very good question, and definitely I have seen, many such incidents in last couple of years in my career, and especially when we talk about cyber threats and events, that has developed substantially into these, number of years. And what I could see that hackers now becoming more skilled and persistent in their attacks surface, as well as the way they are attacking into the banking industry. So I would like to mention a couple of type of threats here, which is very much like either increasing or is there still there into the market, and which is overall producing lots of risk into the environment. The first one I would like to talk about APTs, that we call it advanced persistent threats.
Okay.
There are sort of cyber assault that entails a persistent and targeted effort to infiltrate and steal sensitive data from a specific organization system. And because these assaults are often carried out by highly trained and well-resourced attackers, they can be difficult to identify and defend. So I would advise first to target these APTs, because sometimes these informations are there, or these, threat hackers are already there into your environment for say quite long time, and they are waiting for the right time to get your information and misuse that. And so this is one of the threats I could see. The second threat I would like to mention about the social engineering attacks, and I think it's not only there into the specific industry. This is now everywhere. You can see where people are trying to use different techniques like a phishing, pretexting, and they are trying to target either individuals or firms to take the information and fool around employees or people to gather the information, and create the risk of either losing their reputation, or in most of the cases is money as well. Recently you have seen that just with the SMS they managed to get lots of money from
Yeah.
users bank account. So this is one of the trend I could see nowadays. So this is what the second risk scenario I would like to discuss. The third one is very important one, is also supply chain attacks. And this one, why it's happening? Because if you are building your environment, you have to use many third-party products, right? And if you are targeting to use those products, then you have to understand that that product is coming with what kind of weaknesses, right? And if suppose they are pushing some software either to update or patch their system, and somehow if hackers is able to go inside their application, and you are the heavy like a utilized vendor, or a party of that software, then all those vulnerabilities or weaknesses comes into your environment also, and it spreads very quickly. So this is another risk I could see.
Wow.
And yeah, so next one, I would like to talk about your cryptocurrency related attacks, because this is also now increasing a lot into current days, because most of the environment now going towards the using the cryptocurrency, or somehow coming out with a platform to support this digital currency ideas and all, which is still
Blockchain.
evolving. It's not yet to the it's not yet regularized and governized in a better way, so that you can stop these attacks. So this is again one of the very critical and very risky uh, sort of attacks I could see into a couple of years. Then definitely not the last. I mean, it's very important one, that is we call it insider risk.
Hmm.
And as the digital banking business grows and evolves, insider threats continue to be persistent issue. And this encompasses both purposeful and inadvertent activities by workers, contractors, or employees, or any other insight that might result in sensitive data loss or theft. So if you ask me, overall, these novel patterns highlight the importance of digital banking, taking a comprehensive and proactive approach to cybersecurity, which includes implementing robust security measures, educating employees and customers about cybersecurity risk, and staying up to date on emerging threats and industry best practices.
Well, that's a very good, yeah, that's a very nice pattern which you have explained. So what he's saying is that cyber criminals are taking advantage of human emotion and human, I would not say ignorance, but lack of awareness of how
Lack
they
of
can be
awareness.
socially engineered in giving away their
Ex-
critical information. You also that was a very important point. I never realized that as digital banks are growing, they are more and more dependent on third-party softwares because and then it's a transferable risk, right? So if they have not done enough to safeguard themselves, that becomes a very vulnerable situation because then you're talking about all the risks getting imported into the digital banks. And
Exactly.
yeah, I mean, finally, I also understand what you're saying is that um, there has to be a comprehensive cybersecurity risk. So, which involves about constant risk management, constant risk evaluation, awareness, both to their own employees as well as customers, awareness, and it's an ongoing process. Basically, what you're saying,
Right.
and that brings in awareness. Thank you. I get the point now. Thank you so much. Um, uh, Obviously, my next question is. Um, so we touched upon very important part, which is the insider threat, right? So insider threat can be both employees or contract workers, so to say. So in your opinion, how important are staff training and awareness in reducing cyber threats within organizations? I mean, I know that certain places, it's just done as a part of a process once a year, or they do some exercises, and then if you fail that exercises, then you are penalized by doing a course again and things like that. But how does your organization ensure that all workers understand their roles and responsibilities in protecting the organizational's digital assets?
Yeah, I mean, this is very important aspect that every company should think about, and definitely, being as a large company, our company also thought about this, and we have very structured way to provide cybersecurity education and awareness training to our employees.
Okay.
So, and the reason is, cybersecurity, the threats getting more complex and is becoming more critical than before, and you have to make sure that all of your organizations, employee and persons are very much aware about what's happening and what are the progress has been made from say last time to this time, right? And there are a couple of points one should adopt when it's coming to tackle this situation or this risk.
Okay.
And definitely on top of the list is educate staff on your best practices for cybersecurity, right? So organizations can give training to educate employees on the best practices for protecting the organization's digital asset. This includes advising on a password security, phishing attacks, and other potential security risk as well. It's not limited to this, but just I've mentioned a couple of advisory that you should be looking towards, that in which area you should be training your staff. Then also you have to encourage your employees to understand the risk and uh, get aware about the risk exposure, right?
Hmm.
So, and for that, what you can do, you can improve risk awareness regarding potential hazards connected with cybersecurity threats, which could involve informing users about the dangers of sharing sensitive information and downloading devious files and things like that, right? Then the third one I would like to highlight about the compliance. That is very important, and every employer should understand that what is the meaning of this and how it works in the organization. And organizations basically may guarantee employee compliance with cybersecurity rules and laws by teaching them on their roles and responsibilities, in securing the organization's digital assets. And especially on this, what we have done is we have given the responsibility to each and every employee to understand our security guidelines that
Okay.
we have published, and also we have taken under signed uh, document from them to let them take the responsibility if anything happening around them pertaining to these all these threats. So this one gives the sense to them that how important they are when it comes to managing the risk posture of the organization, because it always there is a sense of an employee that cyber security is not none of my job, it's a job of maybe CGO or maybe
Yeah, yeah.
security folks in the organization. So to avoid that, you have to inform them very in a well manner, as well as you have to give them all the reasons to understand that why they are equally important yeah, as security folks when it comes to managing the security. It's not only task of the security folks to handle the security risk, right?
Yeah.
Then, last but not the least, encourage your employees to report any of the suspicious behavior. And this one also we have, properly communicated to our members, team members, that suppose due to whatever reason your direct manager or your team lead or your boss is not, listening or understanding, whatever happened as an incident, security incident, then you always look for your organization chart and go to top of the organization chart to report such behavior, because this is something that everyone takes it very seriously. And in my organization, I have given authority to all of the employee to go, until CEO level to escalate if something is happening. So the guideline here is don't keep anything to yourself thinking that either I can manage or I can do by self. So if anything suspicious, anything dangerous, any threat is there, you must report to the management so that they can take the appropriate actions, right? So
Great. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so this is what I would like to give advice on this.
Yeah, great. Yeah, like they say in the world of cybersecurity, right? That humans are the weakest link. So
Exactly.
I mean, by providing them adequate training, awareness, what to do in a situation where they spot something, right? Whether it's something they're getting dragged into. I think, yeah, that is absolutely important to tell them how to navigate, go to the highest level and not brush it under the carpet, right? So yeah,
Exactly.
thank you. Thank you for this perspective. So now all this relates to some kind of a framework, right? And because now you're talking about processes, you're talking about people, and all this has to be stitched together. I believe it has to be stitched together and seen holistically, governed, in other words, using a cybersecurity framework, right? So, can you describe what kind of a cybersecurity framework your company has implemented to safeguard both your organization as well as customers against the cybersecurity threats and their impacts?
Yeah, so as per my understanding, when it comes to enterprise cybersecurity framework, that should
Yeah.
contain, all set of rules, standards, and best practices that enterprises commonly employ to manage their cybersecurity risk. Okay.
Okay.
Normally, if you ask about frameworks, there are definitely many frameworks available which can fit your organization or not. That one depend upon a proper risk analysis and see that what exactly it should look like for your organization. But if you talk about very generic cybersecurity framework, which normally consist of a couple of components, which I would like to mention here. That is like first one is identification, right?
Hmm.
So any cyber attacks, if it's happening into your organization, there should be some way to identify that one. And definitely there are many tools and techniques and people are there to look into this and identify all the threats, vulnerabilities, or dangers that may affect your organization. Then it comes to protection. So protection again, like putting up the right security procedures, the guidelines, as well as technologies to make sure that whatever you were trying to protect is protected, securely and effectively, right? Then it comes to detection, where you even after applying all these measures, there are still something that might come into your environment either as a 0-day attack scenario or maybe ongoing gap, if is there into your environment. So detection is again one of the very important factor which you should be implementing in real time to at least know that what's happening into your organization. And then once you detect it, you should have a plan to respond to the incidents, right? And there should be SLA attached to that as well, where you have to work on various things like defining the plans, defining the roles, defining the duties, and also you have to work on various drills, to respond to such scenario if it's coming due to any of the incident. And this one you have to also exercise on a regular basis. And again, the last one, uh, you might respond it to the threats or incident, but you have to finally recover the system, uh, which should be like 100%. I would not say 100%, but it should be almost risk free. And after all the mitigations that you have done in place. So in summary, what I would say that I strongly believe that cybersecurity frameworks should be built to be adaptable and scalable to match organization evolving threat landscape and business demands. And to ensure that the framework stays current and effective, it should be evaluated and updated on a regular basis. Hope this helps.
Yeah. Thank you very much. So there are certain underlining principles why a cybersecurity framework is important, right? And as you rightly mentioned, so it should be, first of all, it should be implemented, it should be then adapted to, and then it has to be constantly revisited to make
Revisit.
sure that the effectiveness stays and it's still effective in whatever emerging scenarios you have. Thank you.
You got it.
Um, so, how does your business remain current on risks and vulnerabilities? Because like we've been saying that it's constantly risk is constantly evolving, right? The
Exactly.
mechanism or the memoranda of operandis is changing every second, if I would say, or every minute, to the lack of choice of words. But how do you incorporate this information of the changing risks into your framework?
Yeah, I mean, this is, I think, one of the biggest challenge for every organization, and it's
Okay.
also not the easy task, I would say, because there is no straight answer of this one or a straight way to achieve this one. You have to, do a couple of things to make sure that you are able to, manage all these vulnerabilities and threats very effectively, and that could be your internal team effort, or maybe in few of the cases you have to you know take third party help or external vendors help to keep yourself up to date.
Okay.
So couple of things I would like to mention that normally we use very frequently to make sure that we are very much current and we are able to manage the risk effectively. So the first one I would mention is this routine risk assessment, which helps to identify the risk and vulnerabilities on the time. And these evaluations can be carried out in-house or by contracting to the third-party security organizations.
Okay.
The second one I would mention is that the threat intelligence monitoring. If you want to keep up to date or current, then you have to understand that what are the land threat escape of and vulnerabilities in your organization. And one of the way is to manage through threat intelligence monitoring solutions. So either it could be relating, you can implement third party solutions, or going through all the latest blogs, forums, or staying up to date with the cybersecurity news, and you apply all the measures that has been recommended by international standard or a different organization around the world.
Okay.
Then you have to also make sure that you are very much up to date and patching your organization's assets, right? This is again one of the very good measures to take if you want to avoid any 0 days vulnerability about which you don't know, but maybe the product vendor, they are aware and they have already released the patches and updates for that product. So you have to apply those patches and softwares on a time. Then definitely you have to regularly conduct the vulnerability assessment. So normally we advise the organization to do on a quarterly basis, if not on a half monthly or a yearly basis, because all these threats, because it's emerging and all these new updates, comes with vulnerabilities. So this is another, the very good tool to use, the constant vulnerability assessment, penetration testing, and a red teaming exercise where you attack to your organization system and see that if
Okay.
anything going wrong, and then you can fix beforehand itself, right? So all these measures, I think, are very good measures to take to, make yourself current, and also avoid any sort of, attacks that might come into your, you know, environment. And this should be definitely examined and updated on a regular basis to ensure that it remains effective against the most recent or evolving threats and vulnerabilities.
Great. So what you're saying is that you have to keep your eyes and ears open. You have to know also externally, what are the threats you're reading about, or maybe I've also of late heard that, there is also intelligence sharing
Exactly.
between industry leaders, where they talk about, what kind of new threats they heard about or they were infected, with recently. So that also is a good input into the current landscape, right? Thank you. And I completely also agree with your point that you also need to keep doing these exercises internally, do an act, do a red teaming, see how you can probably exploit the vulnerability and then learn from that as well.
Right.
Thank you. Could you please guide me through the process of how do you implement a cybersecurity framework in an organization? I mean, is there a lot of change management involved here? Is there a lot of awareness again involved here? Because all these are moving parts. You're bringing in different, departments from across the organization to successfully implement a cybersecurity framework. So some best practices, if you can kind of share or guide me
Yeah,
through.
I think you are right. I mean, definitely there are lots of things you have to consider when you are talking about implementing, a specific cybersecurity framework. And couple of things are like, first you have to identify your assets, system, data, network that must be protected, as
Okay.
well as threats, vulnerabilities, and dangers that might affect, your environment. And this one, as I mentioned before, that can be accomplished by, risk assessment, right?
Yeah.
Then second one, I would advise to create rules, procedures, recommendations based on a risk and vulnerability identified, and these should be consistent with the organization's corporate objectives, goals, and risk management techniques, right? Then third one, I would advise to put security procedures in place to safeguard the assets and system identified in the risk assessment. This involves putting in place access restrictions, encryption, firewalls, and other security measures. And then next one, definitely you have to come out with your incident response plan. You have to define all the roles, responsibility, duties of the members, and also, you have to perform frequent drills and exercises.
Okay.
And last but not the least, you have to review and update the cybersecurity frameworks on a regular basis to ensure that it remains effective against the most recent threats and vulnerabilities.
Well, okay. Thank you. So it's basically there are again principles towards defined principles towards implementing
Exactly.
any cybersecurity framework. So assessing the right frameworks, see what kind of risks you're facing, what kind of suits you, and then obviously again, do we have enough of knowledge within the organization to implement this, or do we need to take an external help to get this implemented? So there are
Right.
these are the guiding principles. Thank you. So what kind of matrices you think you would be using or you are aware of while, to effectively measure the effectiveness of a cybersecurity framework? What kind of metrics we should be using here?
Yeah, so this is, I mean, tricky question. When it comes to metrics, normally we think about the numbers and the things like that, right? But it cannot be like one way to measure cybersecurity framework. So you have to use the combination of quantitative
Ah,
and
okay.
qualitative analysis when it comes to understanding the effective cybersecurity architecture and a framework, right?
Yeah.
So a couple of them are like you have to look for number of cybersecurity incidents that has happened within a specific period of time, which will give you the sense that when we are talking about building this framework, what we should be considering in terms of the volume, I would say, right? Then the second important factor could be time to identify and respond to the incidents.
Mm.
This is again another sort of quantitative analysis that you have to perform. That normally there is always a service level agreement associated with the event, and to understand that one, you have to understand that how fast we can recover or how much it could take when this incident happens into the organization, right? Then you can also take the past security audit results where you have tracked all these informations, and you can use that as a baseline to understand that how to design in such a way that we can avoid such occurrences in the future, right? Then definitely employees training and awareness is the factor that you have to consider apart from the industry standards and regulation compliance, because this one will help to meet the requirement of industry where you are into. So whatever your organization is, based on that, there are many standards available into market, and you have to adopt those which comply to those requirements and also help you to design the best cybersecurity framework for your organizations.
So basically, historic comparison, qualitative analysis, and quantitative. So that gives you kind of a very interesting, because yeah, that's an interesting angle, that ways you can see whether the cybersecurity framework which is implemented is working,
Yes.
or what fixes you need to do to make it even more better or even more effective. Thank you for sharing that perspective. So I'm sure that your company also has to ensure many regulatory or cybersecurity processes, right? So, and I know that your company also would be handling customer data. So, how do you actually make sure that you have an alliance, or an accordance with applicable rules in terms of various standards like ISO 27001, PCI DSS, GDPR, which is a European standard. So, how do your company ensures that these processes are in accordance?
Yeah, I mean, this is again, if you ask me, this is very much important from a compliance perspective, which helps your organization to secure the information of customer as well as their assets from any sort of cyber security threats. So
Okay.
a couple of I think compliance you have mentioned, like a GDPR, which is applicable for European citizens on our personal data, either is there into the Europe or outside the Europe, right? So the similar compliance requirement are there for, say, Asia region, especially in Singapore. If we are talking, we talk about PDPA, where we have to follow those guidelines. And also, if you talk about the banking industry in Singapore, so we have MAS compliance, where you have to look for all the technology risk management guidelines from them. So if I see all these different requirements, it's mainly focusing to a couple of very important aspect of the information we are talking about, right?
Yeah.
And also there are many advice given into this one, which is somehow overlapping almost to all these different compliances. Like you should have data protection officer which is in charge of either PDP or GDPR sort of compliance. And also you should conduct frequent data protection impact analysis to identify risk and vulnerability associated with personal data processing. Also, you should be putting in place suitable technological and organization safeguards to secure personal information and establish mechanism for notifying supervisory authorities and impacted person about data breaches. So these are very high level sort of guidelines given by all these different compliances. But in nutshell, what you have to make sure that if you are storing any of the personal information that we call it PII information of the customer of any of the personal, then you have to follow the guidelines outlined into these compliances, right? So if I talk about say PCI DSS, so this is specific applicable to the payment card industry where we use our debit card, credit card, or any sort of payment cards that we are using right now. And it provides you comprehensive guidelines that if you are such company, then from a cyber security perspective, what you should be implementing into your organization, either it's a people, process, or technology, to make sure that if anyone is doing any transaction, then that transaction is secure and there is no way that one can penetrate into the environment and steal the money or data. So that's the idea of PCI DSS, right? But in general, when we talk about any of the information technology or a cyber security company, then ISO is one of the very good baseline to follow for, which advise us onto various, the measures you should be taking in terms of, maintaining your information security posture through their ISMS, guidelines, and also effectively manage your, risk into the organization. And I also got many like a series, I would say. So whichever is applicable to your organization, you should follow for that. So if I go for like typical one where we always listen about ISO 27001. So they have many releases on that one. Then they have like a specific standard for say personal data security. Then they have a specific for a cloud security. And if you go to their website, you will get many other such documents for various requirements like BCP and things like that, right? So if
Okay.
you talk about overall compliance with rules and standards such as GDPR, PDPA, PCI DSS, ISO, um, it's a comprehensive approach that includes regular risk assessments, appropriate security controls, and ongoing monitoring and review to ensure that the organization's cybersecurity processes adhere to applicable rules and standards.
Thank you. Absolutely. So what you're saying is that it's pretty much comprehensive, very well laid out. Adherence
Exactly.
is followed by following it with a non-compromise and regularly monitoring whether the organization is following it. And that is a very important point which you brought is the data protection officer, which is also implemented. Sorry, who's also nominated to make sure that the standards are being followed. Thank you. So like again, I have always seen this as a challenge when it comes to implementing this different processes, procedures, and the entire cybersecurity strategy itself. You're now talking about collaboration, right? And as you know that when you talk about collaboration, you're talking about various departments coming together, and it can be people from various business units who are not very technically savvy, but then for example, HR uses HRMS system, finance uses, the financial system, procurement is using a procurement system. So how do you collaborate with all these other departments within your organization's business to ensure that systems and procedures are in accordance with the cybersecurity framework? Because you have that framework which the entire, I mean, it's an enterprise framework, right? So the entire organization has to adhere towards it.
Yeah, I mean, there could be, various approach to this, but if it comes to like us, how we do that, first to we have this, knowledge of a, shared system where we can, share the cyber security view,
Okay, knowledge base.
right? Knowledge
Okay.
base.
Okay.
And what we encourage for each department that they should have a shared awareness of their roles and responsibility in cybersecurity,
Okay.
which involves knowing what data must be safeguarded, how it must be protected, and what processes must be followed in the event of a breach. So we are talking here about some crown jewel thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Then definitely, the second one is like consistent cybersecurity training and awareness program, which we basically ask everyone to follow in their department, and they make sure that everyone is aware about whatever techniques that we have discussed before, like a detecting or a reporting or a if any issues, how they should be using, and also the training on a software and a tools and a procedures, that how they should be using to make sure that they are fully trained for any such situation to handle, right? Then the next one important one is involving all stakeholders in cybersecurity policy and procedure development.
Yeah.
Because if you see the organization, which is very complex, which includes say IT department, legal department, HR, and other departments, right? So when you are coming out with any of such policies or any of such framework, you have to make sure that this specific guideline or a framework is going to work for all the departments, right? So you have to sit together and then discuss and then come out with this comprehensive, effective, and very practical, processes
Yeah. Yeah.
your organization, right? And at last, you have to again, reviewing and updating the policy procedure on a very regular basis, because the cybersecurity trends are, there is changing every day. It's rapidly changing, right? So you have to keep changing your documentation, policy, procedure as well to, align and also remain vigilant to meet the organization's goals and objective, right? So overall, I would say cross-departmental collaboration is very critical, that to ensure that organization system and procedures are compliant with cybersecurity framework. And this partnership entails defining clear roles and duties, implementing frequent training and awareness program, and including all important stakeholders in policy information, and evaluating and revisiting policies and procedure on a regular basis. So these are in nutshell, I think you have to apply in your organization.
Thanks, Kumud. I think I found that very interesting that, involve them early on so
Yeah.
that obviously the inputs comes from the right department, generate that awareness right at the time when you're building that policy, and then again involve them, whenever you want to do a checkpoint that, whether this policy is working for them or not, or, the roles and responsibilities are defined well. So that creates a very well-oiled, a mechanism so that everyone can collaborate. Thank you. So we are at the last question though, and it's been very interesting so far. But my last question is very much like, can you talk about any recent events or threats that your company has experienced? And I mean, what I'm trying to understand is how well your cybersecurity architecture has managed to reduce these risks. So again, just trying to take a practical example to see whether, how effective has your organization cybersecurity architecture has been so far.
Yeah. So I mean, if you ask me, to come out with such architecture, then definitely we are focused on a three important aspect of cybersecurity, which is CIA, right? Confidentiality,
Yeah.
integrity, availability, and
Yeah.
to manage the expectation of the CIA. We have adopted another guideline that we call it, PPT, like a people, process, and technologies. So if you see these individual item like confidentiality, integrity, and availability, in all these three, another three aspect also added, like I mentioned people, process, and technology. So you have to do this alignment, right? If you are trying to maintain the confidentiality, then how people should behave and what technologies you can, apply to protect your confidentiality, right? The same it goes for integrity and availability as well, that you have to have the people who understand that what the meaning of integrity is here, right? Either you want to protect some information to modify by someone else, or you want to not allow anyone to do any malicious activity so that the original information could get changed, right? The same thing it goes for availability as well, right? When we talk about availability, then we talk about all sort of technology in place where the data or system is always available for the customers, right? So again, this one also involve people, process, and technology. So when it comes to specific attacks, definitely I think it's very common that all the organizations facing almost same challenges, like either it's a malware attack, phishing attack, ransomware, DDoS, all these very typical attack scenarios that every organization is facing. And as I mentioned that you should have very comprehensive set of practices in place to avoid all these attacks. So few of them I would like to mention here, like using security measures from a technology as well as process and a people perspective, that you apply the firewall, IDS, IPS, and antivirus if you want to protect from such threats like malware or external threats, APT threats, whatever threats we have discussed so far, right? Then we have a practice in place to conduct this vulnerability assessment very frequently. In fact, I would advise to always keep the tools installed into the environment which can do this assessment on a maybe weekly basis or a monthly basis and come out with all the findings. And you keep applying the mitigation on top of that to avoid such risk, right? Then definitely access controls and consistent security training awareness and monitoring your environment using various tools are the key. And this one you again get after consistent way of applying the controls, verifying them, and make sure that it's updated with the latest software as well as information. And if I see the overall well-designed cybersecurity architecture, which is very much critical for safeguarding an organization system and data from such attacks, right? So if you're not doing, organizations may dramatically lower their chance of having cyber attacks by deploying security technologies, doing frequent vulnerability assessment, imposing access restriction, providing regular security training, and monitoring network traffic and user behavior. So if you ask me, you have to be very comprehensive, and you have to apply various measures to overcome such challenges into your organization. And this is what we do also on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, great. So my key takeaway is that definitely a comprehensive cybersecurity strategy is effective, if it is implemented well and with best practices in an organization. And
Yeah,
in your case, it's working well for your organization as well. Thank you.
definitely.
Kumud, it has been absolute pleasure. I mean, we have come to the last question, and yeah, I mean, I think that I've got a lot of good, interesting insights, and I think that this advice and guidance will definitely help me more with my dissertation. And I really thank your time. I'm just stopping the recording for now.
Thanks a lot,
Uh,
Rakesh, and
yeah,
best of